Has your life sped up really quickly all of a sudden and things are really busy, things are really blossoming? There's a lot of forward momentum, a lot of forward movement. I have been talking about this all year that we are going to inevitably feel this energy, and here it is. As things are shifting more into Leo, and there's a lot of momentum building. And this is really the start of it. So, if you are in my membership and you took my 2026 classes, I taught one for the first half of 2026, and then we did a part two for the second half of 2026. If you're not in the membership, you can join and watch the replays and interact in the comments and things. But I specifically did a part two for 2026 because of looking ahead into the summer and how just crazy things we're gonna get. And here we are, we're closer than we've ever been to these upcoming big transits. And this is one of the reasons that I'm so excited to launch my snail mail club to send you physical postcards in the mail. I have one right here for July's energy because there is so much going on in July. I could barely fit it on one thing, but you're going to get a letter walking you through as well what to expect in the energy for July. And this is just the beginning. With Jupiter moving into Leo, like things are picking up speed. Now, Mercury is about to go retrograde, and we are in the pre-shadow of Mercury retrograde at this time. It started on June 13th and Mercury retrograde begins June 29th. So we're in the beginning phase of it from June 13th until June 29th. I just posted a video about this on my socials, and I will be sending out an email. If you get my emails every week, I'll be sending out more educational and informative emails about the upcoming transits on the day that they happen and what to expect, what to look forward to, more of a sneak peek. In written form, I'm really drawn back to more longer form content. This was one of the inspirations for the mail club, was to send you a physical packet with like an update and just some fun goodies. I'm also feeling really drawn back to writing. If you have followed me on Instagram for a really long time, you know I used to write these super long captions that sometimes they wouldn't even fit in like the caption part of Instagram, and I would have to extend them to the comment section, like, because I loved to just write. And it's very third house moon. I'm ruled by Gemini. Makes total sense. Uranus is on my chart ruler right now. Like, of course, I'm getting back into these longer form ways of communicating and media. And we're all kind of feeling that too. That's why Substack, I feel like, has been blowing up and has really gained a lot of popularity. So I'm going to be sending out more regular, informative, educational emails. So if you don't get my emails already, sign up, astrologyhumandesign.com. Sign up. You will also get a free guide walking you through the basics of how to find your chart ruler in astrology and the basics of your human design. And then you will get my educational emails to your inbox. So I'll be sending one about Mercury retrograde. I'm going to be sending one this week as well about Chiron and Taurus because Chiron is moving into Taurus this week. It's kind of a big week. We have Venus in Leo now. It's opposite Pluto. Putting tension on us to really transform our values that are in more alignment with our joy and our expansion as we prep really in a big way for Jupiter to move into Leo soon as well. So that happens at the end of the month. It's when we also have Mercury retrograde beginning as the end of the month in June. What else do we have going on this week? We're going to begin Cancer season at the end of this week on the 21st. We are going to have Venus opposing Pluto, like I talked about, and Chiron moving into Taurus. So those are kind of the major themes for this upcoming week, as well as getting really near to Jupiter moving into Leo. So exciting things. That is why there's been a lot more forward momentum. That is why there's been a lot more just amplification of things that are not aligned. If we've still been holding on to things that are not aligned for us, they have been amplified. They have been amplified. We've had to really be real with ourselves, have hard conversations, and really do the internal work in order to have that match what we want on the external, right? Our internals and our externals really have to match more than ever right now. And so, if we haven't gone within ourselves or created space to focus on what do I actually want? What is my vision? What do I value? What do I want my relationships to look like? What do I want my career to look like? What do I want every aspect of my life to really look like moving forward and doing more of the cleanup work? Especially like what do we want it to look like moving forward with feeling emotionally supported, emotionally nurtured, feeling like the things in our lives are reciprocal, feeling like we are really allowed to flourish in our joy and our excitement and be supported in that, right? And be nurtured in that and where we're headed. That may be new, that is maybe new or different or unconventional, right? So big themes of that coming to light right now and really being amplified in terms of ways we maybe, how do I say, feeling like blocked in communicating this all of a sudden, but feeling like we're so blatantly aware of the things where the mismatches are, right? And how to pivot out of the mismatch and more into what is actually aligned with our joy and our excitement and our passions and our expansion moving forward and taking action in the ways that we need in order to be disciplined with that, be dedicated with that, right? Major theme of Saturn and Aries, as I've been talking about. Um, so yeah, that's really what this week is all about is doing more of the cleanup work. Maybe in an internal way, in order for the external to match what we know that we want for ourselves and for our life moving forward and taking the inspired action, right? Like I was talking about at the beginning, I'm really drawn back to writing right now. I'm really in a major way. I've flooded my blog at astrologyhumandesign.com with new content and we'll be sending out various emails about that content to educate you on different things that I'm really gaining a lot of insight around right now and doing a lot of rigorous research and study and noticing themes and patterns and wanting to more so share that with you all in this intentional way of written form. I think a lot of us are burnt out and this is with short form content and with video and audio and there's so much of it. Not to say it's going to go away, no, but I believe we are incorporating more balance of both of those forms of media into our lives and being more intentional with how and when we slow down to consume what we consume. So I already see that shift occurring. It makes sense with Uranus and Gemini and Pluto and Aquarius is consuming in more intentional ways and ways that help us to regulate our nervous system. Because with Uranus and Gemini, as I've talked about, there can be this fracturing of the mind, this fracturing of the self, if we're not careful in bringing awareness to our nervous system regulation. So, and we're going to see that more and more in the coming years is these people, this kind of split of people who are really, overly consuming, overly on the internet and not stabilizing their nervous system are going to be destabilized, dysregulated, frantic, chaotic versus those of us that are really intentional with cultivating a solid inner foundation of nervous system regulation and energetic, emotional health. It's going to be this is the next thing, right? Is the split between those two types of people in major ways. And it all has been building uh since the internet really came out, but now we're at a pinnacle of okay, what do we do now? How do we be more intentional about this and more approaching it from a regulated space? And remembering what it means to like really be human and be connected with people in a way that feels real and authentic and what is actually going to nurture and support us, right? It all comes back to that with Jupiter and Cancer wrapping up its cycle. What is going to nurture and support us moving forward so that we are not overstimulated and overwhelmed by things that don't actually help us in our everyday lives, right? So, big theme, I was going to say, another thing I've been really diving into, and you'll see this if you go peruse my blog and things I've been talking about on there recently, is these generational cycles and these bigger themes that are emerging and that are evolving. And we can see by looking back at history, we can see the way that time has been shaped and culture and society has been shaped, and the astrology transits that line up with the shaping of society over time. And we're in a big phase and a big new cycle with the Saturn Neptune conjunction we just had. We're in a big new phase and new cycle of a whole new society. It's it is changing behind the scenes. Everything is changing, right? And um this is a lot of what is the major theme. One of the major themes in July is we're gonna have this big, very rare aspect pattern called a basket. If you're in this world, you may have heard of the Barbeau basket. He was a French astrologer that predicted the pandemic, and he kept I'll be talking about this on my blog and to y'all of those in my email to all of those of you. Wow, we're in free shadow of Mercury retrograde. All of those of you who receive my emails. Um, is this French astrologer really focused on generational patterns in history and the way that those shaped through the astrology transits, the way those shaped society and the changes that society have experienced. And so he predicted that because of the outer planet transits, the basket shape we're going to have happening in the middle of July, middle end of July, around July 20th, Jupiter is going to be opposite Pluto, while Uranus is trining Pluto, while Pluto, Neptune are sextiling, Neptune and Uranus are sextiling, and Uranus and Jupiter are sextiling. It's a lot. So, anyways, basically, society is entering into a new cycle we've never seen before, a new big expansion cycle that we have never seen before of people awakening more than ever, wanting to know how to live in alignment and how to. And I talked about this in if you're in my membership and you took my class on, which if you're not, the replay is in there as always. In the video library of my membership, I did a class on Saturn and Neptune and Aries and the new cycle we're all entering into as a society with that and what is being ushered in with that transit we had, that conjunction we had back in February. It's being activated by all of this stuff that's going to be going on that I just mentioned in July. All these other transits are activating that in a major way and supporting us rather, to step into a new sense of interdependence. And I believe it's all been building towards this, right? With Chiron and Aries for 7 years, we've been talking about this. It has been healing our sense of self and sovereignty and having us all kind of awaken in new ways. 2019 and 2020 was a big time of awakening of the self, of the spiritual self, and stepping into these paradigms and these mindsets and these perspectives of how do I grow, how do I heal, how do I evolve, and what do I really want for my life and myself moving forward that is separate and different from what I have lived in the past, and that is separate and different from these structures and systems and mass corporations and mass way that we've gone about work and life and relationships that has all been crumbling and is really coming to a head at this time of that no longer serves us, that no longer works, right? So we've stepped into and are being propelled into this new paradigm of what's going to work for me with my sovereignty, with my sense of self that I have formed and healed over the last several years, and more focus on at a collective level than ever before, and only growing recognition of the self and how that plays out, how our individual roles play out to society. Like, what is your piece of the puzzle, right? Does that make sense? That's really what this time period is activating within all of us, is a greater reflection and awareness on, okay, who am I? What is my role? And how can I live that out in alignment to contribute to the change that society is experiencing in the ways that make like awaken my soul and light up my soul and connect me to that deeper part of my knowing and intuition, and how can I live that, right? And that's why I love and teach these systems, astrology and human design, because they give you a language, they give you a practical guide and a way to understand that about yourself so you can really live it and align with it. So, big time period we're stepping into. We're about a month out from that big configuration of what I talked about, most of the outer planets. Besides Saturn. Saturn will be halfway through Aries, so it won't be a part of the basket per se, but it is still a part of it energetically because of the conjunction we just had between Saturn and Neptune. Anyways, all of that to say we're in a huge time period that none of us have ever seen or lived through. And it's important now more than ever that you understand how to live as yourself and understand your inner knowing and inner needs and inner intuition and where that's guiding you and listen to it and take action on it, right? As I've been speaking to all year, pretty much. So let me see. Wow, feeling the new moon in Gemini today. Uh, is there anything else I want to say about this week? I'm complete with everything. Might be a lot to sit with, might be a lot to reflect on, but really that's the major time period that we're in, and it's all leading us there, right? It's all breadcrumbing us to this inevitable new life that we are building at this time. So, without further ado, let's get into the rising signs. Aries rising, we start your week off with the emotional focus on your home and family. There might be things that you're emotionally gaining clarity around. Although it feels a little challenging, there's something you're being pulled to focus on emotionally with home or family that's a little challenging to what's going on with your sense of self or your creative ventures or what you're stepping into that's new for you, this new cycle related to your sense of self identity or appearance. There does feel like there's just some temporary emotional challenges between home and family and what's going on with you overall. This also might prompt you to really go within and spend some time in your inner world and reflection to gain more clarity or answers of how to move forward. And as we head into Tuesday, the emotional focus on your home and family, you might really need to have or want to have some conversations, emotionally vulnerable conversations about home or family in some way. But again, that could kind of challenge what you're building within your sense of self and what you're working towards that has required discipline and commitment to build, and there just might be some challenges between that and what's going on that's pulling your attention away from that with home and family. We also all week have some tension building between your creative passions, dating, romance, children, and what's changing internally about your vision, your long-term goals, your dream, and the internal reflection you're doing to gain more clarity around that. So there might be this push and pull between that and creative stuff, or again, just feeling kind of busy, feeling like how do I stay grounded or how do I stay centered with all that is occurring or all the ideas that you're getting, all you're realizing you want to shift and change and work through. There is this focus of balance in the ways that you can create it for yourself this week as well. Especially Wednesday, there could be some strong emotions that come up regarding home or family in some way that maybe is a little bit triggering to a version of yourself you've been stepping out of and kind of, again, like I talked about at the beginning of the video, further prompting for you to organize or clean up some things about that in order to move forward in an aligned way. Thursday, the emotional focus shifts into Wednesday and into Thursday, the emotional focus shifts onto your creative passions, pursuits, dating, romance, children, and puts an emotional focus on that tension that I talked about between your creative passions and your internal sense of change around your long-term goals and visions. So there is a big focus emotionally on maybe especially Thursday, putting some time or energy into your creativity in order to really nurture that part of yourself and build more foundations of solidity towards and forwards towards what you're doing. That could, as we get into Friday, really create a sense of emotional healing and bring in some bigger themes of realization around what you're changing and healing and growing about yourself at this time. There's also this big shift and closure around healing of the self on Friday, and this kind of emphasis on bringing that in into worth, into your value, into money in some way as well. As we head into the weekend, really Friday into Saturday, the emotional focus shifts onto your day to day, your routines, your work, your schedule, your health. There could be some emotional release related to that as well. That maybe is also tied into your worth, your value, how you make money. And that could propel you into some new idea or revelation about work or money in general. As we head into Sunday and in the week, we begin Cancer season in your area of home and family. There's a lot of illumination of your inner world, childhood, home, family, in different and various ways. There's also a lot of momentum towards the end of the week on work and career, as well as, building this foundation, setting a schedule, or having more clarity around your self-discipline as it relates to these new goals and what you're actually doing on a day to day to build what you want moving forward. It's kind of like you got the ideas, now it's time to take action and build them. So that is your week ahead, Aries. Let me know how that resonates in the comments. I'd love to hear from y'all on how accurate these are for you and your life. So let me know in the comments, and I'll see you next week. Hi, Taurus Rising. We start your week off with the emotional focus on your money. It will be shifting into your day to day errands, where you're going, who you're talking to, as well as how you're communicating your emotions in order to have your needs met and be supported in ways that you're realizing you need moving forward. So, also on Monday, there could be a sense of emotional fogginess between communication and what's going on in your inner world. Maybe this is a good day to go within or meditate, spend some time in nature to get clarity or just feel rejuvenated. Tuesday, the emotional focus that's on your day to day is amplifying communication themes, mindset themes. How are you communicating to yourself that feels supportive? How are you allowing others to communicate to you? There is this sense of needing to maybe set emotional boundaries if your needs aren't being met in certain ways. That becomes really apparent to you because there could be some challenge or conflict that really brings it up. That's like, okay, I can't just keep letting this ride. I have to say something. I have to share my emotions. I have to speak my piece. There's also this tension building all week between home and career and putting some kind of pressure or tension on you to transform your relationship with home or family in order to have the changes and make the changes you want to see within your career moving forward. Could all come back to again support. How are you maybe communicating ways that you need support or how you need support in order to feel it and to live it and to do and to move forward? Wednesday, the emotional focus is on your home and family. So again, there could be these themes of I need this to move forward with this in my career. I need to restructure this, or this is what brings me joy, and this is what I want to emotionally focus on. There is also a sense later on Tuesday as we head into Wednesday of big emotions coming up. So again, it could be helpful to journal, spend time in meditation in order to get clarity before you act or speak. And then it feels like Wednesday, there is this opportunity to more so have understanding of what's going on and speak from a place of clarity. As well on Wednesday, it really all comes to a head of these changes that need to happen within home in order to support career or vice versa. As we get into Thursday, the emotional focus on your home and family is harmonizing with what's going on about your spiritual practices or your discipline to understand the hidden, the unseen about your mindset or yourself or your mental health in general and what you've been really committed or dedicated to in terms of taking care of your mental health in more supportive ways moving forward. As we head into the weekend, Friday, later on Thursday and into Friday, there is this sense of emotional clearing and healing of your inner world. And then we head into later Friday, midday into later Friday, and the emotional focus shifts onto your creativity, your passions, your children, romance, dating. And there could be some sense of emotional release around an ideal of perfectionism or self-criticism as well on Friday related to what you're doing creatively and moving towards in a really major way. As we head into Saturday, the emotional focus on your creative passions and your dating, romance, children, as that applies, is really kind of prompting you to again, what actions do you need taken in order to feel better about moving forward with all of these themes in your life and the changes that are happening? Like what needs organized, what needs restructuring? There is a big sense of needing to kind of put things into place, cross the T's and dot the I's, and just really making sure everything is solid in terms of what you've realized you need moving forward. So there's a lot of activation and focus on action, momentum on Saturday. And as we end out the week on Sunday, there is this illumination that takes place of your day to day, right? It's kind of like now that you have the solid foundations, you can move forward. You can do the things that you want to do. You can feel more expanded because you have a solid foundation of what you need, and the rest will come from there. So as we end out the week, there's a lot of focus on action. There's a lot of focus on building, putting things into place, and no longer letting perfectionism or self-criticism or criticism or perfectionism ideals from others hold you back. So that is your week ahead, Taurus. Let me know how that resonates with you in the comments. I love to hear from y'all on how accurate these are for you and your life. So let me know in the comments, and I'll see you next week. Hi, Gemini Rising. We start your week off with the emotional focus on your money. There could be some things that you're emotionally tied up with as it relates to money and feeling some type of way about, either with finances, possessions, self-worth, or value. There could be something about that on Monday as well that's challenging your vision, that's challenging your dreams. But at the same time, it's giving you an insight or a glimpse into what needs to evolve to be more supported ultimately. And as we head into Tuesday, there's really an emphasis on putting that into place, putting things into action to build, to have a solid foundation and communicate maybe some needs in order to have them met by others or be supported or feel supported by others as it relates to this as well. There's a lot of how do I say it? Like support wounds being activated at this time related to money and related to maybe community, friendships, long-term goals, and visions. That could kind of come to a head later on Tuesday. There's a lot of focus on emotional expansion of wounds that maybe have been resurfacing or coming up in some sneaky or subtle ways. Also, what's building all week that really peaks on Wednesday is this sense of tension between your day to day, what's fun, what's joyful, what's playful, and also these higher ideals or this higher perspective that's going through a big shift in regards to community, in regards to how you're viewing life. Maybe higher education or international affairs could be at play here too. There's tension between your local needs and maybe your outer needs, your internal communication, your external communication. There is some belief system that's brought into question on Wednesday related to that is putting this emotional focus on you to shift something in a major way and kind of solidify in an internal mindset shift to support the external shifts that are also taking place. Thursday, the emotional focus on your day to day, where you're going, who you're talking to, communication and mindset is harmonizing with what you're doing or building that's new or different with career, with your community, with your long-term goals and visions and your dream. Like there's a lot of momentum towards the end of the week on action, putting things into place, really staying disciplined or committed to building this thing, and making sure that it doesn't really stop before it gets started. As we head into Friday, the emotional focus shifts onto your home and family. There could be some things about home or family living situation that you're really releasing, either mindset or communication patterns or styles that aren't helpful. This could also look like cleaning, literally cleaning things in your home and family in order to feel better, to feel more emotionally supportive, right? That's really what this week is all about, is putting those things into place that are going to help you feel more emotionally supportive to move forward with these bigger visions and dreams and goals that you're aligning with at this time. As we head into the weekend, there's a lot of focus on action and implementation. There's a lot of focus on, okay, well, what now? What do I do with this? How do I build? How do I make sure I'm consistent and dedicated and really stepping forward in ways that feel good? and taking messy action instead of expecting it to be perfect before I take the action, right? Big theme on Saturday and Sunday as we head into to the end of the week here. We begin Cancer season on Sunday. There's a big illumination of your money, of your possessions, of your self-worth and value, and being focused on reciprocity as it relates to how you're nurturing what you're doing for money and how that is bringing back to you energy that feels balanced. There's also a focus again on doing, on building, maybe these solid foundations or habits as well in your inner world. Kind of just slow and steady, right? Is the energy as we end out the week. It's again implementation. So that is the week ahead for you, Gemini. Let me know how that resonates with you in the comments. I love to hear from y'all on how accurate these are for you in your life. So let me know in the comments, and I'll see you next week. Hi, Cancer Rising. We start your week off with the emotional focus on you. There's a sense of emotional renewal beginning at the start of this week. There could also, though, because of that, or just something that's challenging or conflicting that emotional clarity and emotional sense of renewal, is what's going on with career. Maybe you're building something that you're more inspired or creative around, building some new avenue of career or something for yourself. But at the same time, it feels like that is challenging what's going on emotionally with you on Monday or vice versa. That's kind of an emotional phase, mood on Monday. And another big theme that's building all week for you is this sense of tension between your money and other people's money, this sense of tension between value, possessions, and what you do with money or how you value yourself and receive from the outside world. This could also look like, what has been changing within your shared resources or vulnerability or, investments, taxes, debt, that kind of thing. What has been majorly changing there for the last few years? Whatever is going on with that is kind of being highlighted, is kind of being nudged through tension to get more clarity on exactly how you want to change it so that you feel more emotionally supported moving forward. Especially Tuesday, there's another sense of really feeling focused emotionally on you, your appearance, your sense of self, how you're talking to yourself, how you're letting other people talk to you. And also that is challenging or conflicting with what you're building in career. So there could be this sense of realization of, okay, if I keep going down this path with what I'm doing and how I'm presenting myself to the world, it could hinder my career. Or if I keep moving from a place of misalignment, it could really build something I don't want with my career. It's kind of that energy of like, okay, how do I make sure this is still aligned moving forward and emotionally supportive for me at the same time? And what's not has to be readjusted, has to be reevaluated. So we get into Wednesday. Also on Tuesday, there could be big emotions coming up around that. Just so we're clear, Tuesday night could be a kind of big emotionally heightened time. Then, as we head into Wednesday, the emotional focus shifts onto your money, giving you more clarity, more focus on, okay, how do I bring more joy or passion into what I'm doing for money, into my possessions? You could be literally purging things or selling things, getting rid of your possessions in order to feel more renewed and feel better about what you're doing or what you have in your life. So again, it's this focus on reorganization to align with joy above all else. And Thursday, that's really, how do I say, the emotional focus on your money and what you're building is supporting what's going on with career. So there, at the beginning of the week, there might felt like these frustrations emotionally between those two areas. Now it feels like, okay, I have the clarity I needed or that I wanted, and here's how I move forward. Here's what I do. Here's how I implement in ways that do feel joyful. As we head into Friday, the emotional focus shifts onto your day to day, your errands, where you're going, who you're talking to, how you're communicating yourself or sharing ideas and information. There could be some big emotional release on Friday of criticism, perfectionism related to that, how you share yourself or how you talk to yourself even, and how that kind of ripples out into every other area of your life. There's a big emotional clearing and a big wrapping up of that chapter in a major way. Whatever's been changing about your communication style or day to day for the last year and a half, kind of getting a big last hurrah of release at this time. Then, as we head into the weekend, Saturday, really the focus is on implementation, right? Like I was saying, the second half of the week is really on, okay, I got the clarity now. Here's how I move forward. Here's what I put into action, into motion. And then we end out the week on Sunday, beginning Cancer season. And there's this renewal of your light. There's this renewal of your energy, renewal of illumination of yourself and what you're doing, and things that are really moving forward in your life in major ways. Could also be spending some time around supportive people and friends that help with everything that you're doing and building in this transition as well. So that is your week ahead, Cancer. Let me know how that resonates in the comments. You know, I love to hear from y'all on how accurate these are for you in your life. So let me know in the comments, and I'll see you next week. Hi, Leo Rising. We start your week off with the emotional focus on your inner world, your subconscious, your mental health. There could be something about that though that is challenging a perspective, a belief system, a mindset, and bringing up more around something that's been emerging there or changing since February in an emotional way, and giving you ultimately more clarity on what's going on at the emotional level, maybe what's stored in your body around certain things or belief systems or experiences that have led you to view life a certain way. There's a lot clearing underneath the surface at the start of the week. You might need to spend some time alone or in nature or with a supportive practitioner that can help you work through this, somatic therapist, etc. Because there's a lot of emotional focus on clearing these patterns and wounds at a really deep level these first couple days of the week, especially Tuesday. Tuesday's a big one for that. And at the same time, there is this activation of and clarity around what you're doing with career that you've been building, that you've been taking action on, this forward momentum. As we head into Wednesday, there is an emotional renewal. The emotional focus shifts from your inner world into you, into, okay, how are you being seen? How are you putting yourself out there? What are you building? What are you growing? There's a sense of like, okay, now that I've dealt with this underneath the surface, I can expand, or I can share it externally, or I can, there's this sense of feeling creative, feeling inspired on Wednesday as well. Again, this renewal of your joy that takes place because you did the inner work. At the same time, there's a big shift building between you and between your relationships. So there could be a sense of, okay, this relationship isn't serving me in this way, and I need to transform how I handle it. I need to change either the relationship itself, which is rare, or just completely realize that this was misalignment and you clear it to create space for alignment, right? So there's a sense of like, really putting yourself at the forefront of your decision making of like, okay, what's best for me? What do I need? How do I feel supported? Right? Just like what I talked about at the beginning of the video, there's a lot of focus on taking action around and from the place of, does this emotionally support me or not? Especially Thursday, there's a big sense of, okay, now that you're emotionally focused on yourself and expansion of you in these different or new ways, what are you building? How can you just remain disciplined with viewing the world in this new way from this new place with this different mindset that is actually better and more aligned for you moving forward? So there's a big focus on that, especially Thursday, although there could be later on Thursday something about you that challenges what's going on with career. That could look like a temporary emotional frustration that forces you to evolve, something about how you're showing up in career or how or what you're building there to be seen. Friday, the emotional focus shifts onto your money, your possessions. There could be some release emotionally around that, maybe of self-criticism or perfectionism in some sense. And at the same time, it's like, okay, getting more clarity on what that how you've been holding yourself back in terms of dreaming bigger or dreaming better or your vision or your long-term goals for yourself and your life moving forward with everything that you're building and doing. As we head into the weekend, there's a lot of emphasis on putting things into action, putting things into place, building, doing the thing or launching the thing that's going to make you money that contributes to what you're building in career. All of that is kind of really being emphasized at this time, as well as not acting from old wounds, but acting from the healed version of you that's maybe thinking of like future focused. What would the person who already like what would I do if I already had this thing, or what, how would I be acting, how would I be sharing myself? Again, it's kind of like putting yourself in the energy of having what you already want, and then your actions will line up to get you there. It's a big focus. It's on building as we end out the week. So that is your week ahead, Leo. Let me know how that resonates for you in the comments. I love to hear from y'all on how accurate these are for you and your life. So let me know in the comments, and I'll see you next week. Hi, Virgo Rising. We start your week off with the emotional focus on your friendships, your long-term goals, visions. There could be something about that that maybe is just feeling a little foggy or feeling a little unclear because it's challenging your focus on shared resources, your focus on debt, taxes, investments, and some sort of big internal transformation that you've been in. Maybe even connecting more to your spirituality, your intuition, abilities, things of that nature. So there could be something on Monday that's like foggy around that emotionally. And it could propel you to really look at something deeper in order to evolve it, in order to grow it, to have a different relationship with your intuition, perhaps, or who you're spending time around, because maybe some people aren't nurturing that side of you that you need nurturance and support around right now. A big also theme of that is Tuesday, because the emotional focus on your long-term goals, visions, relationships, community, and how you're speaking your mind and how you're, again, like I talked about at the beginning of the video, there's this reciprocal energy of support, of nurturance, uh, giving and receiving, especially in your community, and whether or not what you're doing long term is ultimately supporting and nurturing where you want to head or where you see yourself. It's kind of like being busy just for the sake of being busy isn't building what you want. How can you be busy in the ways that's going to build what you want long term? So that's really the focus on Tuesday, is realizations around that, and maybe where you need to kind of shift or line things up better in order to build what you want to build instead of just giving your energy away to what isn't building the long-term dream or vision ultimately, right? So it's kind of just this sense of recalibration between what you're doing and how you're doing it to build what you want long term instead of just busy work for the sake of busy work. It's like you don't really have to make decisions anymore from a survival place. So what actually nourishes you that also nourishes others by you doing it. And whatever isn't kind of aligned with that way of seeing it has to kind of go. Also, building this week is some tension between, again, your values and your worth and how you're sharing yourself and providing value to others from like your gifts and your inner worlds, as well as like what that looks like in a physical reality, like in balancing, making sure that your mental and physical health are balanced in that way. And right, there's reciprocity between those two areas for you and what you're doing and what you're building. Especially on Wednesday, major focus. Back it up a little bit. Tuesday, there could be some really heightened emotions that come up around your long-term goals and visions. There could be some kind of breakthrough that you receive through heightened emotions or kind of wounds being brought up with everything that I was talking about. Kind of like a coming to Jesus moment about I can't keep doing it this way. Uh, then Wednesday, there is emotional amplification of, okay, are you sharing yourself and your value and your gifts in the ways that really you want to be? Is what you're building aligned with this way that you see yourself moving forward and in your life, or do there need to be some adjustments made? I do feel like though Wednesday and really the second half of the week there is this renewal, there is this sense of like inspiration. It could really come from an internal place. There's a sense of creativity and inspiration and really taking action on these things to again more so align with what you want moving forward as opposed to just grinding for the sake of grinding. Thursday, the emotional focus on your inner world is challenging what's going on about your belief systems or your perspective of how you're seeing all of this. But again, at the same time, there's a lot of positive momentum on building and on taking action from these realizations and putting them into place instead of just like, I don't know, like not choosing to see them. As we head into Friday, there's a sense of emotional renewal of yourself. There's a sense of rejuvenation. There could further be some sort of emotional release around perfectionism or self-criticism tied to you and how you share yourself, your sense of self, your identity, how you share yourself with the world, and through your gifts. There could be this sense as well, and like, okay, this really has to, something's got to give. I really got to transform this, evolve this in ways that really support me moving forward. So there's also more kind of recalibration that occurs based around these things that you've realized and reframed. As we head into Saturday and really over the weekend, there's just a lot of momentum on building. There's a lot of momentum on, doing the things that are going to build what you've realized you want, or more so are moving towards at this time. That feels more supportive. That feels more like, okay, yes, this is the vision I've been seeing for myself. This is what I realize I want. This is what I realize I've been wanting to shift or move towards. There's a lot more clarity as we end out the weekend and on Sunday, especially because we begin Cancer season and now there's illumination where there had been illumination in your career and your public image. Now that's shifting into your long-term goals and vision. So there is a sense of like, okay, here's how I move forward and here's what I actually do on a daily basis to build this. So that is your week ahead, Virgo. Let me know how that resonates with you in the comments. I love to hear from y'all on how accurate these are for you and your life. So let me know in the comments, and I'll see you next week. Hi, Libra Rising. We start the week off with the emotional focus on your career, your reputation, your image. That's directly conflicting, though, with some ideals there have been around a relationship, someone in your life that's new, or relationships in general, that maybe there have been some things that didn't feel super clear about. And whatever's been going on with that is directly on Monday challenging your focus on career and your emotional drive towards what's going on or what's building within your career that feels better and more aligned for you moving forward. Another big thing that is building this week um, is tension between your relationships, values, money connected to your long-term goals and visions, and what's changing about your dating, romance, children, perhaps, as well as creative passions, and how you're taking action on those creative passions in order to build a life more aligned with your long-term goals and visions that you have been gaining realizations around, in terms of what you want and how to act on it and how to move forward. So, there's a lot of focus on those two areas as well and bringing them into a greater sense of balance, like making changes on a daily basis, revolving around what brings me joy, what do I feel creatively inspired to do or put out there, because that's what's going to build this long-term goal and vision you're realizing you have for yourself in the future moving forward. Tuesday, there could be some heightened emotions related to career and relationships. This could really give you a lot of clarity on how to move forward with whatever has been happening within relationships related to career. There could be something that through these challenges emotionally or conflicts, emotional conflicts, you realize that you want to evolve on Tuesday and you want to change the the dynamic, or you want to change how it all forms together or what is happening in these two areas and how they have deep ties for you as well in a sense. As we head into Wednesday, the emotional focus shifts onto your long-term goals, visions. There could be this sense of emotional clarity and action towards what you're doing, what you're building, like I talked about earlier, there's this, it kind of peaks on Wednesday, the sense of, okay, I need to bring more balance to what I'm doing on a daily basis that is creative and how that's contributing to my long-term goals and visions and really getting kind of running a strict program as it relates to that. Like, really, if there have been actions that you do maybe that don't support where you're headed, like it's kind of like, okay, is this like trimming the fat? Is this supporting me in my long-term goals and visions, or not? Is it just kind of contributing to more confusion or frustration or whatever it is, right? It's again, it's kind of this recalibration of what you're doing. Um, on a daily basis to support where you want to go and to support your vision and really trimming things or reframing things or putting up different boundaries around things in order to just have those parameters as we head into Thursday. There's a lot of emotional harmony between, what you're focused on emotionally and maybe emotionally driven to do as it relates to your long-term goals and visions that are connected to your joy and your passions and excitement for you, as well as what you're disciplining committing to in relationships and what you have been building there. So it's again tying these things together, maybe recalibrating things to further line up in ways that you're realizing are necessary moving forward. As we head into Friday, the emotional focus shifts into your inner world, your subconscious, your mental health. There could be some things you're just reevaluating, cleaning up, organizing about your inner world, or your mindset, your perspective of life. And there could be a kind of emotional release around that as well of like, oh, I've really been hard on myself about this one thing and I need to talk to myself in a more supportive way, in order to just feel better about it and like not beat myself up for something not happening in the way that you want just yet, is the major vibe on Friday. As we head into the weekend, Saturday, there's still an emotional focus on cleanup in your inner world or cleanup of possessions, organization of things, a really big focus on mental health and practices that are going to support you and solid foundations of what you do that are going to support you moving forward. Yeah, just kind of this emotional, subconscious mental health cleanup. Is really the focus over the weekend. And as we end out the week on Sunday, there is a big shift. There's a big shift of what's being illuminated in your life that you're focused on. There's also later on Sunday going to feel like this sense of emotional renewal of yourself, of how you're presenting yourself to the world and how that ties into career and what you're doing moving forward with career, that is maybe new or different or more expansive and really stepping into that in a bigger and better way than ever before. So that is your week ahead, Libra. Let me know how that resonates with you in the comments. I'd love to hear from y'all on how accurate these are for you in your life. So let me know in the comments and I'll see you next week. Hi, Scorpio Rising. We start the week off with the emotional focus on your perspective, your belief systems, your philosophies of life. There is a lot there that has been expanding for you the last year. That's really kind of gotten more clarity of, okay, how do I expand my worldview or my vision or my perspective of how I'm seeing myself and my life around me, as well as aligning with perspectives or belief systems in ways that really support you and really nourish you and what you're doing and moving forward with in your life. At the same time, on Monday, there could be something emotionally about that is challenging what's going on with work, your day to day, your schedule, your routine, maybe physical health, perhaps. But it is challenging you to evolve, right? And to kind of maybe reframe or see something differently. Especially Tuesday, there's a lot of emotional focus on having a conversation from this new perspective or with this new understanding of how you want to move forward with work or with career, perhaps related to home or family in some way as well. Because also building this week is kind of tension between your values related to your joy and excitement in career, what you're doing there, what you're providing, that is directly kind of putting tension on what's changing about your home or your family, as well as like an internal kind of, an internal sense of how you relate to or communicate your needs to home or family in some way as well. Big themes on Tuesday. There could also be later on Tuesday heightened emotions around that and what you're realizing you need. There could be something that, a wound that's triggered later on Tuesday related to that and related to work or physical health or your schedule, your routine. But again, it's kind of forcing you to evolve. So you see, you see these blind spots and can kind of adjust as needed to move forward in a way that ultimately feels better and more aligned moving forward for you and what you're doing and what you're building. Wednesday, the emotional focus shifts onto your career. So there is this kind of make or break or how do I say like peak moment that happens between what's going on with home and career, and it kind of comes up in an emotional way on Wednesday of like maybe an emotional drive to take action in order to change something about career related to home or family. There could also be a lot of creative inspiration in terms of what you're building or what's new that you're moving towards with career with work in a major way. As we head into Thursday, the emotional focus on your career is harmonizing with what new routines or discipline you're building with work, your day-to-day work. That's building this bigger sense of how you want to be seen, maybe a reputation more aligned with joy and your excitement. Again, there's a big focus on that and putting the actions into place that are going to build that for yourself and feel better for you and probably improve your health in a sense as well. As we head into Friday, the emotional focus shifts onto your long-term goals, visions, community, friendships. There could be some emotional release of perfectionism or self-criticism related to that as well. Kind of this a final emotional release related to whatever you have been releasing in this area of your life overall for the last year and a half. It's some sort of vision that's changing for you so you can step more into creativity. And so there could be a kind of final purge of anything at an emotional level related to that so you can move forward. Then as we head into Saturday, it's really kind of about building. It's about restructuring. It's about putting things into action, maybe having some conversations with people in your life related to what's going on. And then as we end out the week on Sunday, there is this sense of how do I say, illumination with like more expansion in your mindset and what is supporting you and nurturing you. There's the solidification or embodiment of the changes you have been making so that you feel more aligned with these changes at a foundational level and can move forward on a more solid foundation than you have had in the past. So that is your week ahead, Scorpio. Let me know how that resonates with you in the comments. I love to hear from y'all on how accurate these are for you in your life. So let me know in the comments, and I'll see you next week. Hi, Sagittarius Rising. We start your week off with the emotional focus on your shared resources, debt, taxes, investments, inheritance, other people's money, or things like that. Also, emotional vulnerability and intimacy is a big focus for you at the start of the week. I mean, there have been a lot of themes coming up around that, healing of those themes really since September of last year. But at this time, it's getting an emotional focus. And on Monday, there could be something about that emotional focus on this area that's challenging your creative inspiration or a creative passion related to intuitive abilities or creation, intuition, spirituality in some sense as well. And later on Monday, there could be this sense of your emotional focus in this area is really, shared resources is really challenging your ability to be disciplined with creative passions, ventures, dating, romance, children as it applies. And that kind of bleeds into Tuesday, where there might be a need for you to have an emotionally vulnerable conversation around that in order to move forward and maybe addressing some wounds or triggers tied into your identity or sense of self and how you're expressing yourself creatively Also, building this week is tension between your values and self-worth as it relates to your mindset, your belief system, your perspective, maybe international affairs if that relates or resonates. And that is putting tension on what's changing about your day to day, your errands, where you go on a daily basis, who you talk to, your socializing, or how you're sharing ideas and information, how you're communicating in general is going through a big transformation. And this week, there's a lot of tension being put on that part of your life to deeper, more deeply transform at a foundational level, especially Wednesday. But before Wednesday, Tuesday, there could be some big emotional blow up Tuesday evening, Tuesday night. Emotions are going to be heightened. There might be a need for you to not direct them at anyone, but really feel them deeply in order for them to be cleared. Then, as we head into Wednesday, the emotional focus shifts onto your perspective, your belief systems, your thought patterns, your mindset, your philosophies of life, higher education, and international affairs. As I mentioned, maybe could be a focal point as well if that applies. But whatever that is, whatever's going on emotionally in this area of your life that is kind of putting pressure on your communication or your day to day to change, is also harmonizing with your creative pursuits and what you're doing that is more so aligned with your spirituality or intuition or creative passions. So there's a lot of, it almost feels like the beginning of the week, there's a lot of heavy emotions to clear. And now that those have been felt, there is this space for inspiration of the creative kind to really come in middle towards the end of the week, and a lot of forward momentum on what you're creating and what you're building that's more aligned with your joy. There could be some sense of solidification or closing out of a chapter related to healing in that area of your life as well, especially on Thursday. As we head into Friday, the emotional focus shifts onto your career, your reputation, your image. There could be something emotionally that you're releasing in a major way related to that maybe is challenging some change or changes with relationships or a relationship in your life. There could be some emotional conflict between career and relationships. But at the same time, what's going on with career is asking for a kind of further emotional release, or this could show up as like wanting to really emotionally look at and face these mindset patterns of perfectionism or self-criticism as it relates to career and what you have been doing there, and where there's room to just not be so hard on yourself about things in your career and just kind of put things out there and see where it lands as opposed to like mentally it and wanting it to be perfect before you try it out, right? So there's a lot of focus over the weekend on implementation and releasing any belief systems that are hindering you from taking action on things that are actually really going to help you move forward or actually really aligned for you on what you're doing and what you're building moving forward. As we end out the week on Sunday, the emotional focus shifts into your long-term goals, visions, community, social media, perhaps, at the same time that where your where your biggest kind of illumination and focus is shifts from relationships and moves into the area of shared resources once again. So there's this illumination and focus on, okay, am what I doing and am, wait, is what I'm doing emotionally supporting me or not? And if not, how do I recalibrate it so that I do feel emotionally nurtured, nourished, and supported with what I'm doing and how I'm moving through life, specifically as it relates to intimacy, vulnerability, shared resources. Again, big themes of that starting to come up and solidify as we end out the week as well. So that is your week ahead, Sagittarius. Let me know how that resonates for you in the comments. I love to hear from y'all on how accurate these are for you in your life. So let me know in the comments and I'll see you next week. Hi, Capricorn Rising. We start your week off with the emotional focus on your relationships, other people in your life. That could be directly challenging what's going on with home or what's going on with your desire to spend more time alone or with your muse, so to speak, to be creatively inspired or needing to kind of just set boundaries with home or family in order to have that time for yourself. There could be some emotional challenge that comes up around that in relationships on Monday and into Tuesday. There's a focus of, okay, what actions do I need to take to have these boundaries in place or to just have these containers or structures or systems in place to support me in my internal time related to other people in my life. Tuesday night, there could be some heightened emotions as well that come up around that, maybe triggers related to home, family, or childhood, to look at more deeply in an emotional way and really clear. As we head into Wednesday, the emotional focus shifts onto your shared resources, debt, taxes, investments, as well as emotional vulnerability and intimacy. And whatever's kind of, this is a big focus of change for you at this time of, okay, does this align with my values? Does this align with my how I've stepped into this sense of joy or a more alignment at a foundational level with my worth and with my passions and my creative things that I want to do? Does, this external stuff support that? Or do the internal and the external match up and align? And there's a lot of tension on that to make some adjustments as necessary with possessions or money or resources in some way to recalibrate and get more into alignment if there isn't that in certain ways already. Wednesday, that comes to a head, especially emotionally. As we head into Thursday, there is this sense of emotional clarity, emotional support towards setting boundaries or just really feeling more fluid or more, how do I say, like structured and foundational related to what has been going on with home and family that you've handled in a different way than you would have before. There's just a lot of momentum that's harmonious between these areas of your life, but at the same time, there could be something on Thursday that feels emotionally challenging, feels emotionally frustrated with creative stuff or children, or romance or dating kind of temporarily as well. But again, it's all forcing you to realign and calibrate in ways that are supportive for where you're headed. Friday, the emotional focus shifts onto your perspective, your belief systems, your mindsets, perhaps spiritual practices or beliefs as well. And there could be some big emotional relief, clearing, clarity that comes about related to that on Friday that you kind of move forward with of like, oh, this is things just kind of click into place with your mindset, your perspective. And there might be some focus as well on building, right? And moving forward, the creative inspiration or momentum, maybe with work or with health or what you're doing. It just feels like you're going to be in more flow as we end out the week related to these containers you've created previously. Especially on Saturday, there's a lot of Saturday and early Sunday, there's a lot of emotional momentum towards taking action on your creative pursuits or passions. Then, as we end out the week on Sunday, the emotional focus shifts onto your career, your reputation, your image, and what's being illuminated in your life shifts from work and health to relationships. So there is more of a focus on reciprocal relationships and kind of, again, maybe having conversations you need to have related to that and maybe because you did, feeling more supported and nurtured already from the people around you in the ways that you need because you spoke up about it, right? So that's how we end out your week, Capricorn. Let me know how that resonates with you in the comments, and I'll see you next week. Hi, Aquarius Rising. We start your week off with the emotional focus on your day to day, your health, your routine, your schedule as it relates to work, as well as health, work-life balance. So there's a big emotional focus on that, and it could be challenging what's going on about communication or sharing ideas or feeling creatively inspired to share ideas or communicate something in your day to day as well. There's a lot of focus on just emotional restructure in terms of your day to day. Tuesday, that continues. There could be something you really need to emotionally communicate to work or about physical health in some way. And there could later on Tuesday, maybe due to that, be an emotional clearing. There could be heightened emotions. On Tuesday, there could, because of that, or, something that comes up that feels a little triggering with communication or day-to-day stuff. Maybe siblings, perhaps, if that relates. There could be something about that that's triggered that really feels like it causes heightened emotions. And so there's this focus on releasing that and evolving your approach to emotional triggers or reactions as well. And needing to kind of communicate before the blow up happens is a big theme at the beginning of the week for you, Aquarius. Wednesday, the emotional focus shifts into your relationships and emphasizes emotionally what's been getting kind of how do I say, getting a focal point of your life all of a sudden is balancing you with relationships and bringing that into greater harmony, into greater balance of what kind of relationships do you want? How can you build it? How can you put the emotional energy and time into building it in the ways that you want and you're realizing you need, connected to the way that you and your sense of self is evolving in a major way, right? So there's a lot of emotional focus on that. Wednesday, it really comes to a head of like clarity of this is how I need to move forward. This is what I need to change about my sense of self in order to have relationships line up with that in ways that feel good, in ways that feel creative, fun, exciting, inspiring. And then it feels like the rest of the week is kind of about navigating that and feeling maybe more creatively inspired than you have before, or spending time around people who really inspire you or feel fun is the energy as well. It's kind of like, okay, you got the clarity. Now you know what to look for in terms of who you spend time around and what you do with those people that you spend time with and around. Continues into Thursday. If I didn't already say that, that's really the vibe on Thursday is maybe feeling really busy, but it's really positive busy. Like you're talking to people, sharing ideas, information, feeling creatively inspired to take action on certain things. There could also be this, yeah, lots of just movement and sharing of information and ideas. A lot of momentum. And then as we head into the end of the week, Friday, the emotional focus shifts onto your shared resources, emotional vulnerability, intimacy. There could be some sense of release or cleanup in terms of your other people's money, how you're handling money, debt, taxes, investments, inheritance, also emotional vulnerability. Like I said, your kind of inner psyche, there could be something there that emotionally gets a focus of release, of letting go of some version of perfectionism tied into that, self-criticism tied into that. You're really, there's a focus on healing that wound, emotionally releasing it, in order to just give yourself more grace and space to build what you're building, right? And clear something to have more of that creative inspiration take that place of what you cleared. Does that make sense? So then as we get into the weekend, there's a lot of momentum on building, especially emotionally. On Saturday, there's a big focus on building a stronger sense of embodiment and solidity in your inner world with home, family, your habits, really kind of building things up in terms of like your foundations and your structures at a deeper, bigger level so you can move forward with that foundation and structure in place that's going to support you moving forward. As we end out the week on Sunday, we have Cancer season beginning in your area of work, day-to-day health, routine. So there is this sense of positive forward momentum because and support and nurturance in the ways that you've realized you need. There's a lot of more positive momentum towards having that in your life than ever before. So that is your week ahead, Aquarius. Let me know how that resonates with you in the comments. I'd love to hear from y'all on how accurate these are for you in your life. So let me know in the comments, and I'll see you next week. Hi, Pisces Rising. We start your week off with the emotional focus on your creative passions, ventures, what you're sharing with the world, what you're taking action on. But there could be something about that temporarily that is challenging money or challenging your ideas or inspiration, ideals, inspiration, creativity around money or possessions or value in some way as well. So, kind of propelling you to evolve how you tie in your passions and get to make money from those, right? There's some emotional perhaps belief system that comes up around that on Monday. And as we head into Tuesday, there's a sense of needing to just continue to be disciplined with what you're building in regards to your finances or possessions or self-worth or value that's tied into, again, your creative projects, passions, and pursuits, how you're sharing those with the world, how you're communicating those to the world, and really prioritizing what supports you and what nurtures you as it relates to that. So there could be some things you just realize emotionally need to change, or different approaches to bringing greater balance to both those areas in your life. Also, building this week in a major way is value, self-worth, relationships, money tied into work, what you're actually doing on a daily basis, and what that is pressuring you to change or evolve about your mental health, your inner world, your spiritual practices, perhaps as well. Like there's this a lot of momentum on your inner world and on having these more solid foundations that support you moving forward to make the changes you want to make and do what you want to do creatively. Also, Tuesday, forgot to say this about Tuesday, but I don't, anyways, Tuesday night, there could be some really heightened emotions related to all that that come up to kind of feel and clear in order to move forward. That could lead to some breakthrough. It could lead to some inspiration creatively. Then, as we head into Wednesday, the emotional focus shifts onto your day-to-day work, health, routine, schedule, and more so emotionally illuminates that change that you're feeling really kind of pushed or pressured to evolve about both of these areas, your physical health, your work, as well as your mental health, your inner world. There's an emotional focus on that. Okay, like, okay, how do I bridge this gap of what is needed here for me to feel more nourished in my excitement and in alignment with what supports me moving forward. As we head into Thursday, there's a lot of focus on building. There's a lot of focus on creating, taking the action, especially with work and money, creative passions, ventures, pursuits, and things as well. And Friday, there could be some sort of healing that occurs, at an identity level around that, whatever has been coming up emotionally. And later on Friday, the emotional focus shifts into your relationships. There could be some communication pattern or of perfectionism, of criticism, either that comes through relationships or your internal world, like your relationship with yourself. There's a big emotional release of that. Of like, okay, I have to let go of perfectionism or criticism in this way in order to move forward with what I want to do and have been building. As we head into Saturday, there's a lot of just momentum and again more focus on building, taking the action on things, feeling emotionally driven to build and reorganize and restructure and recalibrate everything in your life to match up with where you're headed and where you're wanting to take everything moving forward, especially on Sunday. There is this sense of like emotional harmony between what you're doing, how you're sharing ideas and communicating, related to relationships, the people in your life that you're serving with your ideas or your gifts or your creative things, right? There's a lot of emotional focus on just doing the thing and putting it out there and communicating it, like just really taking the action and not holding yourself back. Also on Sunday, we have Cancer season beginning, and that's going to happen in your area of creative passions and pursuits. So there's a lot of more momentum even building towards the end of this week as well around what you're creating, what you're putting out there into the world, right? So again, it's on the emphasis at the end of the week is on action, is on doing, is on building, is on creating in ways that you're led to and inspired to. So that is your week ahead, Pisces. Let me know how that resonates with you in the comments. I'd love to hear from you on how accurate these are for you in your life. So let me know in the comments, and I will see you next week. Okay, week ahead. Okay, let's talk next week. We have Cancer season, like I mentioned at the beginning of this video. We have Cancer season, starts on Sunday, the 21st. So as we enter next week, we are in Cancer season. It's going to be squaring Neptune, so there could be some feelings of spaciness or fogginess that could illuminate things we maybe haven't felt clear about, though, and give us that clarity, especially as we progress through the week. That could be something that is building. We have, man, there's so much. So much going on. We have Mercury getting really close to Jupiter. So there's this expanded feeling related to ideas and information and how we're sharing things and what we're building and how we're putting things out there to the world that maybe is new or different than what we've done before. And there's these new wounds coming up around our value, our worth, our money, our finances, our food that, is this kind of new cycle we're starting with Chiron. So there could be things really coming up around embodiment with what you're building and what you're doing and how your worth and your value are tied into all of that. Maybe your relationship with food as well. A lot of us are focused on making changes to food, diet, things of that nature. So that's going to be a big focus starting next week because we're going to have the moon opposing Chiron when the moon moves into Scorpio. We're also going to have Venus harmonizing with Saturn. So this is kind of a good transit, towards building what you're building that's new or different and more aligned with your creative passions, projects, or pursuits, and your excitement and your sense of expansion. This is kind of a foreshadowing, I would say, to Jupiter being in Leo this transit. And then when is the 29th? Is that a Okay, so the 29th is 2 Mondays from now, so 2 weeks. Um, that's when we have Mercury retrograde beginning. That's when we have Jupiter moving into Leo. So big, 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 big time period. We also have Mars moving into Gemini, um, the 28th, next Sunday as well. So lots of positive shifts and momentum towards, like I said at the beginning of the video, everything that we're building, everything that we're doing, that is sending us into a whole new chapter of life. So that's what you have to look forward to. Let me know how your horoscope resonated with you in the comments. We'll talk more about next week in next week's video, and I'll see you then. Bye.